You're sitting across from her at dinner. She's talking about her day, sharing stories, laughing at something that happened at work. And you're there, nodding, smiling at the right moments, saying the appropriate things. But there's a part of your mind that won't turn off. You notice the inconsistencies in her story. The way she describes her coworkers' behavior doesn't match what she told you last week. You catch the small manipulations in her tone when she wants something. You see the performance beneath the authenticity, and you hate yourself for noticing. This is the curse of the intelligent man in love, the inability to simply feel without analyzing, the compulsion to understand, to dissect, to see patterns where others see only emotions. And once you see these patterns, you can't unsee them. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Nietzsche and Schopenhauer believe that intelligence is fundamentally incompatible with romantic love, why the men most capable of deep thought are often least capable of deep feeling, and why the clarity that makes you valuable in every other domain makes you nearly impossible to love. But I need to warn you before we continue. What I'm about to reveal will fundamentally change how you see your own struggles with relationships. Once you understand the mechanism behind this incompatibility, you'll stop blaming yourself for being cold or detached. You'll understand that what others call your emotional unavailability is actually an inevitable consequence of how your mind works. But before we explore why intelligent men struggle with love, you need to understand what Nietzsche and Schopenhauer meant by intelligence. Because they weren't talking about IQ scores or academic achievement, they were talking about something far more fundamental and far more isolating. The intelligence that isolates. When Nietzsche spoke of the higher men, he wasn't referring to people who solved complex equations or memorized philosophical texts. He was describing men with a particular cognitive style, the inability to accept surface explanations, the compulsion to question underlying assumptions, the drive to see reality as it actually is, rather than as social consensus presents it. This kind of intelligence is fundamentally analytical. It dissects, it questions, it refuses to accept things on faith or feeling alone. And this is precisely what makes romantic love so difficult. Because love, in its traditional romantic form, requires a kind of blindness. Not complete blindness, but selective blindness. The ability to overlook contradictions, to accept behaviors at face value, to feel without constantly analyzing what you're feeling and why you're feeling it. Think about what happens in the early stages of romantic love. There's idealization, projection, the construction of a fantasy version of the other person that may have only a loose relationship to who they actually are. For most people, this is natural, beautiful even. It's how pair bonds form. But the intelligent man, the type Nietzsche and Schopenhauer described, can't do this. His mind won't allow it. He sees the real person almost immediately. He notices the gap between what she says and what she does. He observes the way she manipulates, performs, constructs an image. Not because he's looking for these things, but because his mind automatically analyzes patterns in human behavior. And here's where the curse becomes clear. She needs him to see the idealized version. The relationship requires his blindness, but his intelligence makes blindness impossible. He sees her insecurities masquerading as confidence, her need for validation disguised as independence, her unconscious manipulation tactics, her biological drives operating beneath her stated preferences. None of this makes her bad or wrong. It just makes her human. But seeing it makes loving her, in the way she needs to be loved, nearly impossible. This is why Schopenhauer wrote that the more intelligent a man is, the more he suffers from life. Because intelligence doesn't just see what is, it sees what's hidden beneath what is. And in romantic relationships, what's hidden beneath is often incompatible with the illusions that make love sustainable. Most men don't have this problem. They can see a beautiful woman and simply enjoy the experience without analyzing the social dynamics at play, the evolutionary psychology driving their attraction, or the way their dopamine system is being hijacked by novel stimuli. They can fall in love without simultaneously understanding exactly why they're falling in love and questioning whether those reasons are sufficient. But the intelligent man can't separate the experience from the analysis, and this creates a fundamental problem. He's always half outside the relationship, observing it, even while he's inside it. Nietzsche saw this clearly. He understood that the men most capable of profound insight were often most isolated from ordinary human experiences, including love. Not because they didn't desire connection, but because their minds made the kind of naive immersion required for romantic love psychologically impossible. And this isn't about superiority, it's about incompatibility. The intelligent man isn't better than those who can love easily. In many ways, he's worse off, because he experiences the desire for connection without the ability to achieve it on the terms that connection demands. Arthur Schopenhauer had a view of romantic love that most people find deeply disturbing. He argued that what we call love is nothing more than the will to life, nature's blind, unconscious force, manipulating us into reproduction. According to Schopenhauer, when you feel intense romantic attraction, you're not experiencing something elevated or spiritual. You're experiencing your biology hijacking your consciousness to serve its reproductive agenda. Your love is just genetic compatibility assessment disguised as emotion. This sounds cynical, reductive, the kind of thing only a bitter misanthrope would claim. Except Schopenhauer wasn't wrong. Modern evolutionary psychology has essentially confirmed his thesis. What we experience as romantic love is largely driven by unconscious evaluation of genetic fitness, resource provision capability, and reproductive potential. But here's where it gets complicated for intelligent men. Most people can experience this biological drive without understanding it. The intelligent man experiences it while simultaneously understanding it, and that understanding kills the experience. The problem of dual awareness. Imagine you're attracted to a woman. She's beautiful, engaging, interesting. You feel drawn to her, but your mind, trained to analyze patterns, immediately recognizes what's happening. Your dopamine system is responding to facial symmetry markers indicating genetic health. Your unconscious is evaluating hip-to-waist ratio as a fertility indicator. Her behaviors are triggering pair bonding mechanisms that evolve to ensure paternal investment in offspring. The chemistry you feel is neurotransmitter patterns shaped by millions of years of evolution. None of this is romantic, it's mechanical. And once you see the mechanism, the magic dissolves. This is what Schopenhauer meant when he said that the intellect, when turned on the will, reveals its crude animal nature. The intelligent man can't help but see the evolutionary machinery beneath romantic feelings, and seeing it makes participating in it feel absurd. Most men can think "I love her" without questioning what love means or where that feeling originates. The intelligent man thinks "I love her" and immediately recognizes this as a narrative his brain constructed to rationalize biological imperatives he doesn't consciously control. And women sense this. They sense when a man is half outside the experience, observing it rather than fully immersed in it. They interpret it as coldness, emotional unavailability, inability to truly connect, and they're not entirely wrong. The illusion. Love requires, Schopenhauer believed that romantic love was nature's most elaborate deception, a trick to make individuals sacrifice their well-being for the species' reproductive agenda. Strong language. But consider what love demands. It demands you see her as unique, special, irreplaceable, when rationally you know that human preferences are largely predictable patterns, and most soulmate experiences could have occurred with any number of people who met similar criteria. It demands you believe the relationship is about mutual happiness and fulfillment, when biologically it's about genetic transmission and offspring survival. It demands you interpret her behaviors charitably, construct narratives that excuse contradictions, overlook evidence that conflicts with the idealized image. Essentially, it demands motivated reasoning in service of pair bonding. For most men, these demands aren't demands at all. They're natural. They don't have to force themselves to idealize. They don't have to work to overlook contradictions. They don't even notice they're doing it. But the intelligent man notices, and noticing makes compliance impossible. He can see that his feelings of jealousy are just mate-guarding instincts, that his desire to provide for her is paternal investment psychology, that the warmth he feels in her presence is oxytocin response reinforcing pair bonding. He can see the mechanism so clearly that the experience itself becomes hollow. The unbearable clarity. Schopenhauer wrote, "We forfeit 3/4 of ourselves in order to be like other people." For the intelligent man in love, the forfeit feels even greater. To love the way she needs to be loved, to love the way that makes relationships sustainable, requires abandoning the very clarity that defines his consciousness. It requires choosing blindness, voluntary ignorance, the deliberate suppression of analytical thinking in favor of feeling. And for the mind trained to seek truth, to question assumptions, to see beneath surfaces, this feels like suicide of the intellect. So he faces an impossible choice: maintain his intellectual integrity and remain fundamentally alone, or abandon that integrity and achieve connection through self-deception. Most intelligent men can't make either choice cleanly. They oscillate. They try to connect while maintaining analysis. They attempt relationships while keeping one foot outside them. And the result is exactly what you'd expect: half-presence, emotional unavailability, the sense that they're never fully there even when they're physically present. Schopenhauer didn't offer solutions because he didn't believe there were any. He saw the intelligent man's struggle with love as an inevitable consequence of consciousness turned against itself. Awareness destroying the very experiences that make life bearable. But Nietzsche saw something different. Something more complex and potentially more troubling. The unbearable clarity. While Schopenhauer saw romantic love as biological deception, Nietzsche saw it as something more sinister: domestication. In Nietzsche's view, romantic relationships aren't just about reproduction. They're about constraint. The transformation of the dangerous, creative, powerful man into something safe, manageable, useful. Love, in this framework, is the primary mechanism by which society tames men who might otherwise resist conformity. This sounds paranoid until you actually examine what romantic relationships demand from men, especially intelligent men. The demand for consistency. She needs you to be predictable, stable, emotionally available in consistent ways. This isn't malicious. It's necessary for her to feel secure. But for the intelligent man, whose mind is constantly evolving, constantly questioning previously held beliefs, constantly pursuing new ideas and perspectives, this demand for consistency feels like a cage. You're not the same person you were 6 months ago. Your understanding has evolved. Your priorities have shifted. The things that seemed important last year now seem trivial. This is growth. This is intellectual vitality. But relationships interpret it as instability. She fell in love with a version of you that existed at a specific moment, and she needs that version to remain stable. But your mind doesn't work that way. You can't freeze your development to maintain her comfort. Yet the relationship demands exactly that. Nietzsche saw this as fundamentally incompatible with the life of the higher man. The man committed to his own evolution can't simultaneously commit to remaining the person someone else fell in love with. Every relationship becomes a negotiation between growth and loyalty, and usually growth loses. The domestication of ambition. Nietzsche observed that men in love become moderate. Their dangerous edges get smoothed. Their all-consuming projects become hobbies balanced with relationship obligations. Their willingness to sacrifice everything for their mission transforms into reasonable compromise. Again, this isn't malicious. She doesn't consciously want to diminish you. But the relationship structure inherently moderates masculine ambition. Because unchecked ambition is destabilizing. It creates uncertainty. It prioritizes abstract goals over immediate relationship needs. It makes you unavailable, distracted, difficult to pin down. The intelligent man's ambitions are often abstract and all-consuming. He's not trying to make money or achieve conventional success. He's pursuing understanding, creation, the realization of ideas that may have no practical application. These pursuits require obsessive focus, periods of complete immersion where everything else, including relationships, becomes secondary. But relationships can't tolerate being secondary. They require consistent attention, emotional availability, the subordination of individual projects to couple priorities. And the intelligent man, whose primary relationship is often with ideas rather than people, finds this subordination suffocating, the intelligence she says she wants. Here's the cruelest irony. She says she's attracted to your intelligence, your depth, your ability to see what others miss, your refusal to accept conventional thinking. This is what drew her to you initially. But once the relationship is established, those same qualities become problems. Your intelligence manifests as overthinking. Your depth becomes emotional unavailability. Your ability to see what others miss becomes cynicism. Your refusal to accept conventional thinking becomes inability to just be normal. She wanted the intelligent man for the status, the interesting conversations, the feeling of being with someone exceptional. But living with the intelligent man means dealing with his constant analysis, his emotional distance, his inability to simply feel without understanding why he's feeling it. Nietzsche predicted this perfectly. He understood that women are attracted to power but uncomfortable with its actual manifestations. They want the results of masculine drive without the obsessiveness that drive requires. They want the insights of masculine intelligence without the alienation that intelligence produces. The prison of her needs. For Nietzsche, the ultimate imprisonment wasn't the relationship itself, but the way it hijacks your value system. Gradually, imperceptibly, her emotional states become your primary concern. Her comfort becomes your responsibility. Her approval becomes necessary for your sense of well-being. You start evaluating your choices through the filter of how they'll affect her. Your work, your time, your friendships, your solitude. Everything becomes negotiable based on her needs. And this negotiation is presented as love, as partnership, as what good men do. But Nietzsche saw it differently. He saw it as the extinction of the autonomous self. The man who could have created something genuinely new, genuinely his own, gradually becomes the man who maintains a relationship. His creative energy, his intellectual force, his capacity for solitary achievement, all redirected toward sustaining a partnership that requires his diminishment to function. This isn't universal. Not all relationships function this way. But for the intelligent man whose highest values are often intellectual integrity and creative autonomy, the average romantic relationship does function exactly this way. It demands sacrifice in the very things that make him who he is. And the tragedy is that he often makes this sacrifice willingly, believing it's maturity or love or growth, when actually it's the slow death of everything that made him remarkable. Given everything we've explored, a pattern emerges. Intelligent men often choose solitude, not because they're incapable of love, but because they've calculated the cost and found it unacceptable. This isn't misanthropy. It's not fear of intimacy or emotional damage or any of the usual psychological explanations. It's a rational assessment. The relationship she needs him to have is incompatible with the life he needs to live. The math of solitude. Consider what the intelligent man gains from relationships: companionship, sexual access, social validation, emotional support. These aren't trivial. Humans evolved for connection. The desire for partnership is legitimate, biological, powerful. But now consider the cost. Constant negotiation over time and attention, subordination of obsessive projects to relationship maintenance, emotional availability when his natural state is intellectual absorption, performance of feelings he may not actually have, suppression of thoughts and observations that would destabilize the relationship. For many intelligent men, this math doesn't work. What they gain from relationships doesn't justify what they have to sacrifice to maintain them. The solo life, while lonelier, is more authentic, more productive, more aligned with their actual values and needs. Nietzsche and Schopenhauer both chose this path. Neither had successful long-term relationships. Both produced their greatest work in solitude. Both understood that their philosophical projects required undivided attention, incompatible with romantic partnership. This doesn't make them correct. It doesn't mean solitude is objectively better than partnership. It just means that for men whose primary drive is intellectual or creative rather than relational, solitude often makes more sense. The loneliness is real. But let's be honest about the cost. Solitude isn't romantic isolation where you work on your masterpiece surrounded by devoted disciples. It's often just lonely. You have insights no one around you understands. You work on projects no one cares about. You achieve things no one witnesses. The victory of maintaining intellectual integrity is real, but it's cold comfort at 2 a.m. when you're alone with your thoughts. The intelligent man in solitude doesn't escape the desire for connection. He just decides that false connection is worse than no connection, that a relationship requiring him to be half present is worse than being fully present to himself, that the comfort of partnership isn't worth the cost of self-betrayal. This is a legitimate choice, but it's not costless, and anyone claiming otherwise is lying. The rare exception. Occasionally, the intelligent man encounters someone different. A woman who doesn't need him to perform emotional availability. He doesn't feel, who values his solitude rather than resenting it, who has her own obsessive projects and understands why his take precedence sometimes, who can handle his analysis, his distance, his periodic disappearance into his work. These women exist, but they're rare. And they're rarely the women society trains men to pursue. They're not the ones who need constant attention and validation. They're not the ones who make relationships their primary identity. They're not the ones who interpret masculine solitude as rejection. They're the women who are themselves intelligent enough, autonomous enough, self-contained enough that they don't need a man to be their emotional anchor. And ironically, these are the women most intelligent men never meet, because intelligent men avoid the social context where relationships typically form the acceptance. Eventually, many intelligent men reach acceptance. Not bitter resignation, but actual acceptance of their nature and its implications. They recognize that their relationship to ideas will always be more intense than their relationship to people. That their need for solitude isn't a flaw to be fixed, but a requirement to be honored. That the life they're called to live is fundamentally solitary. This acceptance brings peace. Not happiness necessarily, but peace. The end of trying to force themselves into relationship structures that don't fit. The end of feeling guilty for being who they are. The end of interpreting their nature as pathology. Nietzsche and Schopenhauer both reached this acceptance. Both stopped apologizing for their inability to love in conventional ways. Both recognized that their path required solitude and stopped pretending otherwise. This doesn't make them role models, but it does make them honest. So where does this leave the intelligent man who still desires connection despite understanding all of this? What's the path forward when you can't unknow what you know, but also can't escape the human need for intimacy? The answer isn't simple. It's not learn to feel without thinking or find the right woman. Those solutions are platitudes that ignore the fundamental incompatibility we've explored. Radical honesty as foundation. The only sustainable approach is radical honesty about your nature and its limitations. Not honesty as confession or apology, but honesty as boundary setting. You tell her, early and clearly, I will analyze everything. I will sometimes be distant. I will prioritize my work over relationship maintenance. I will see patterns in your behavior you'd prefer I didn't notice. I will not perform emotional availability I don't feel. This is who I am. Most women will leave, that's fine. Better they leave early than stay and slowly resent you for being exactly who you said you were. The rare woman who stays, who understands what she's signing up for, who has enough autonomy that your distance doesn't destabilize her, that woman is the only candidate for sustainable partnership. Rejection of conventional relationship scripts. The conventional relationship, living together, constant availability, merged social lives, relationship as primary identity, doesn't work for intelligent men. Stop trying to force it. Create alternative structures. Separate spaces even within cohabitation. Explicit agreements about solitude and availability. Permission to disappear into work for days at a time. Relationships as enhancement to autonomous lives rather than merger of lives. This requires finding a woman who wants the same thing, again. Rare. But trying to make conventional relationships work by suppressing your nature is guaranteed failure. Acceptance of partial connection. Perhaps the deepest acceptance is this: you will never achieve the kind of total connection, the naive immersion, the complete union that others experience in love. Your mind won't allow it. But partial connection is still connection. Intimacy with awareness is still intimacy. Love that includes analysis is still love, just a different kind. Stop measuring your relationships against the standard of people who can love without thinking. That standard is irrelevant to you. Your relationships will always be more conscious, more negotiated, more qualified. That doesn't make them less valuable, just different. The creative sublimation. Both Nietzsche and Schopenhauer channeled their relationship struggles into their work. Their insights about love, about human nature, about the conflicts between intellect and emotion, all of this came from their inability to love simply. Your struggle isn't just obstacle, it's material. The pain of being unable to connect the way others do, the isolation of seeing too clearly, the loneliness of being half outside every relationship, this is fuel for creation, for understanding, for work that people who love easily will never produce. This doesn't make the pain worth it, but it means the pain isn't wasted. The final insight. Nietzsche and Schopenhauer weren't teaching men how to love better. They were teaching men that some people are built differently, and that difference has costs and benefits that must be accepted rather than fixed. The intelligent man's struggle with love isn't a problem to be solved. It's a condition to be understood and lived with consciously. You won't escape it. You won't fix it. You'll just get better at accepting it. And in that acceptance, strange as it sounds, there's a kind of freedom. If you recognize yourself in this, write in the comments, clarity over comfort. Because that's the choice the intelligent man makes every day, whether he admits it or not. And understanding that you've made this choice, consciously owning it rather than suffering it, that's the closest thing to resolution you'll find.